Is Genn and Baku gonna change shit? Do we think that these two cards will actually be in tier 1, tier 2 meta decks? That's the question, right? Yo guys, what's going on? Robert Warshack here. We have the next expansion for Hearthstone that was just announced, and we also have a spicy change to standard mode, basically until the expansion comes out, which we'll get into. But with the new expansion, of course, comes new cards, new keywords. The first keyword is being tourist, which is kind of crazy. So with this new keyword, you can put a tourist into your deck, and their destination class Perils and Paradise cards get instantly added to deck building for that class. So for example, if you add a Paladin tourist to a rogue deck, you can now play with Paladin cards in your rogue deck from the expansion Perils and Paradise, which is kind of crazy. So now we have like dual class building when making decks. So this is very similar to like dual class cards, but instead of like individual cards, you just add this one to your deck and then you have access to everything. So the pairs of cards that we have is Paladin and Rogue, Rogue and Warlock, Warlock and Death Knight, Death Knight and Shaman, Shaman and Demon Hunter, Demon Hunter to Priest, Priest to Hunter, Hunter to Warrior, Warrior to Druid, Druid to Mage, and then Mage to Paladin. This is a pretty big mix-up, and it's interesting they made this a keyword, and then all you have to do to meet, again, the criteria of being able to make this like mix and match deck building is just to have the tourist in your deck when you build the deck, and you only have one tourist in your deck. You don't need any more than that. One tourist for one vacation, as they said, and a couple of the new tourist cards, like a 5-mana 2/6 here, Rogue Tourist, your spells that cost 2 or less cast twice. That's pretty insane. And then we have a 5-mana 5/5 buttons, Shaman Tourist, Battle Cry, draw a spell of each spell school, but obviously it's a Death Knight card. So pretty crazy stuff here. It's going to make deck building, in my opinion, pretty fun. Being able to do the dual class stuff was always a fan favorite in the past, that when we've had it. Some classes obviously were a lot better than others, so some saw no play, some saw some play. So hopefully with this expansion, we can see kind of like more things seeing play and have the dual class stuff really shine instead of just a few picks out of like all the options available to us. So on top of that, we have new drinks. So we have 6 different drink spells to choose from. Each one comes with refills, which is basically you can play it over again, very similar to like Barrel, Monkeys, or Bananas and Hunter, where you can like play it and then you have like 2 more uses, play it, you have 1 more use to play it again, and then you're out. So for example, we have a Shaman card here for 2 mana. It's deal 1 damage to all enemies. You have 3 charges, play it, then you have 2, play it, then you have 1. Cards that they printed that have this effect have generally been pretty good for most things. I mean, just again, looking at Hunter, Barrel, Monkeys, and Bananas is both played in Hunter still, and it's always been a pretty good card. So stuff like this for the Shaman, I can see this card obviously being very powerful. Moving down to destinations, these are locations, but what's cool about these is you can activate them more than once per turn. However, if you don't do that, it just does like the same activation as like the normal location would. So for example, the hiking trail is a 3-mana discover a taunt minion. After you gain armor, reopen this. So you can click it, get a taunt minion, gain armor, it opens again, click it, get a taunt minion. You know what I mean? Like you can activate this all 3 times in 1 turn, or if you don't have the armor gain, you would just wait for it to open like normal, like a normal location. For hiking trail, I don't necessarily know how good that is. Discover a taunt minion. I would rather just play a good card in my deck than just have to keep creating random taunt minions. So I can't say per se how good this card is. Doesn't seem that great, but the ability to have like locations and the ability to keep activating them like every turn, I'm sure there's going to be a location that like is really good and like involves some sort of winning technique, because obviously this doesn't do much winning, but I'm sure there'll be a very powerful location that hasn't come out yet. All right, we have a free login reward, and this guy is actually pretty cool. He wants to welcome you to the upcoming launch of the new expansion. Log in right now and you get this guy for free. He's a 7-mana 6/6 pirate. Battle Cry, choose a fantastic treasure, shuffle the other 3 into your deck. As we know, the old Togwoggle treasures was the Golden Noble, the Wondrous Wand, the Goblet, and the Crown. So the 3-mana 6/6 taunt, Battle Cry, replace your hand with legendary minions. We have the Wondrous One, which is generally the best one. We always pick that with the old Rogue deck, where we draw 3 cards, reduce their cost to 0. That was always insane. Then we have the Goblet, which is a 3-mana draw a card, fill your hand with copies of it. And then we have the 3-mana Crown, which is discover a legendary minion, summon 2 more copies of it, which is pretty good depending on the situation. The Wand and the Crown generally were the most picked. However, with this guy, you get to pick the one that you want, and then it shuffles the other 3 in the deck. which is pretty good. So definitely a huge value card there. You just have to pay like a 7 mana 6/6 for him. So definitely I see this being Highlander decks. It's a pretty, in my opinion, good Highlander card for pretty insane value. Of course, with the new expansion, you can pre-order the expansion. It seems like this is generally the same like kind of deal they've had in the past, where it's like 80 packs and the other one is 60 packs, and it comes with some card backs and free legendaries and stuff like that. So moving to the standard stuff, like what is happening right now? So you log in right now, you get that legendary card that I just covered. We're gonna probably build a couple decks with him in there. He seems like a pretty fun card, especially depending on what deck we can throw him in and what works. I'm seeing Highlander deck, it's coming to mind first, but obviously there'll be quite a few other big druid seems like he'd be pretty good with the wand as well. 0 mana cards are OP. But Genn and Baku returning to the core set. So when the patch comes today, you're watching this, patch is out until Perils in Paradise comes out July 23rd. So from now until the end of next month, Genn and Baku will be added to the free core set. That means it'll be playable in standard and wild for everyone. It says these were 2 iconic cards that were so powerful they were set to wild early. Yeah, they created some pretty not so good gameplay for the time that they were out, and they actually did. These are, I think, some of the only cards they've ever like had to remove from standard before the rotation time by like a year, because they were causing so many deck building problems and the fact that they were just overwhelmingly powerful. In today's world of Hearthstone, I actually don't know how crazy these guys would be just for the sheer power level of decks right now. Alongside, think about like Reno decks. Reno's changing your hero power anyway, right? So if you play like a Genn and Baku deck, and if it's a Highlander deck, you're gonna end up like most of the time, like who doesn't have Reno on 9? Every player that I play against does. So like having the deck restrictions of these guys to end up having to move your hero power to like a different Renos anyway doesn't seem that good. But maybe there's a couple other decks that aren't Highlander decks that end up running these guys that are really good. Looking at like maybe Odd Hunter or Odd Rogue, and just like them being back when they were really aggressive, right? Or like Dude Paladin. So we'll have to see. There's a lot of different combinations with these guys, especially with the meta we're in now. But yeah, that's a pretty big shakeup until the new expansion. Whether or not Genn and Baku is a good move, I'm down for shaking up the meta. I'm always a fan of mixing things up on a pretty consistent basis so the meta doesn't settle and the game doesn't become boring. So we have the new expansion coming. We've got hopefully a new fresh meta with these 3 new cards coming, with the one you get for free, and then Genn and Baku going in, and then there's like a bunch of stuff for like Battlegrounds, but I don't play Battlegrounds, so I'm sorry if you do. I don't cover that kind of stuff. This is not the channel for Battlegrounds. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff coming. Always stoked for new Hearthstone cards, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Again, is Genn and Baku gonna change shit? Do we think that these 2 cards will actually be in tier 1 tier 2 meta decks? That's the question, right? So with that, of course, I'm Robert Warshack, and happy whatever the hell day it is.